G'day, this is Christopher Jones from Bicycles Network Australia, and in this episode we're looking at the Garmin Edge 820. It replaces the Garmin Edge 810. It's a following model, and you can see by the form it's actually identical to the Garmin Edge 520. So there are differences in terms of the colouring, a bit more silver on this. Otherwise, if you turn it over, you can see that it has the Garmin mount, so the regular Garmin mount that you should know and love already. And at the rear, we can also see the port for charging. I've also got a tether attached to this one. I actually believe in tethers because I don't want the device to actually fall off accidentally, and it can happen. Two buttons underneath, and also on the side I have the main button in silver. So first thing is to turn it on, and as that's turning on, look at the we'll look at the sensor. Now the sensor actually fits on the hub. This is provided with the device. Very simple, all ready to go. Just put it around the rear hub and it starts. So turning this device on for the first time, there is a setup involved, and then after the initial setup, then you can turn it on, and first of all it wants to go and find the sensors such as the cadence sensor, speed sensor and heart rate monitor, which was also provided in this bundle. So this is a touchscreen type of cycle computer, which is great. There is a big difference to the way that this touchscreen works and the way that a smartphone such as an iPhone or an Android would work. This requires a little bit more patience. It's not as subtle, or it doesn't allow such a subtle touch. That means that when I press, I need to press down, not necessarily hard, but press down and hold. So it's a little bit more finicky, I'd say, in terms of trying to operate this, and you need a little bit more patience. But I can scroll through the essentially the main options are the way I want to train. What it does mean is I can actually start using this very quickly after I get it. So if I click on ride or race and click into the overview screen, I can then click the play button underneath, and I'm ready to go. So very quick and simple to set up. And within this view, after I look at the general summary, I can also scroll to the left as I'm either swiping or clicking the button. I can go to the side. I've got the map view. I've also got a view where I can compare with another ride, and I can see that because I'm not riding at the moment, because I'm going nowhere, it's now well behind. And in the next view I have the elevation. Now also, because I'm not going anywhere, there is no elevation, but we'll have a look a little bit later and see an example of how that is tracked. And so scrolling or swiping to the side, I've got another smaller display unit followed by the first display with a lot more detailed information. I can click the lap button, which is on the bottom left, and then I can essentially create laps and break the whole ride up into segments. And then if I click on the play stop button, then I can stop my recording and either save my route, or in this case discard the route because it's I've gone nowhere. So I click OK and I'm back to the start screen. On the bottom right there is the cycling IQ, and this is Garmin's attempt to be able to connect it with the smartphones. And essentially Garmin have a lot of competition from apps such as Strava, which can rely on a smartphone and can do many of the things that a traditional cycle computer does. So what Garmin do is that they have a lot more ways now to connect to the smartphone to be able to, let's say, transfer or communicate. And an example of this is the accident alert, where I can, in the case of an accident, if this device thinks it's been an accident, it can alert one of my contacts. So returning back to the start menu, and we'll go and have a look at a few more details in the general overview. Obviously I can navigate and use a traditional type of navigation. This is something which I don't use very often, but in the main menus I can go through and see some of my past rides, such as in the history. And we can see that I have a ride from 31st of July, which is 70.8 kilometers. Look, sometimes when I touch it, as mentioned before, because it's not as finely tuned as a smartphone, it can take a bit of a while to get into it. And look, it is loading the ride and trying to get into this, but it just needs a bit more patience sometimes using it. So Inside the ride, I've got my summary. I can see total time is 3 hours 50, 70.8 kilometers. I can assure you that there was a coffee break in there, and it also explains why the average speed is 18 kilometers an hour, which is quite slow. And at this stage, it hasn't stopped recording to provide, let's say, the average speed while riding. And I'm sure this is just part of settings, so I can see the calories, the cadence, and also the ascent and descent. In the next view, as part of the history, I can also see a map of my route and see where I've ridden. A challenge that there is with the mapping is, at least in my area where I ride, there's a lot of waterways, the ocean and other waterways, and because the map route is drawn in blue and the ocean and the waterways are blue, the contrast isn't fantastic at sometimes to be able to really spot the route. But look, if you look at the device and you got your good glasses or you got good eyesight, then it's not rocket science to be able to work out where the map is. Now within this map view, I can also use a hand view to be able to slide the map around, and when I'm finished with this, I can just then return by clicking the button on the bottom left to go back. So we also have the elevation, which I can see, and in this route you can see that there was a big descent at the start, a little bit of up and down, and a big ascent, big descent, another big ascent at the end of it. So that gives you an idea about how that chart works. If I scroll down, I can see I've got also time in the heart rate zone, and this was predefined, and it's certainly something which I'm going to assume that I can set up the way I want it, but it's provide information about essentially my heart rate, and which is predefined zones it thinks I was in, which is especially useful if you're training to your heart rate. So moving back into some other details on the Garmin, we've got my statistics, general statistics, contacts where I can put in my emergency contacts, and in the settings I've got more options such as looking at sensors, adding more sensors if I wish. With this bundle, everything was already ready and it paired automatically. It was fantastic. The group track is a new function, and it gives me the ability to see my contacts who have allowed me to connect up, and I can actually see them on the map, so that's actually pretty awesome. And moving further, I can see I've got Bluetooth, Wi-Fi type of options to be able to adjust all the settings. So look, this was a bit of a look at the Garmin Edge 820. A very, very brief look, and just to give you a run through of what's happening on screen and what it looks like. With the very, very short time that I've had with this, I haven't really been able to go into some of the advanced features and test the navigation in detail, so it's really only a very, very short test, but I hope it was useful nonetheless. So on Bicycles Network Australia, we have our YouTube channel, and I encourage you to subscribe. We have a lot of videos with interviews and also information on new products. Otherwise, we have a very active and vibrant forum on bicycles.net.au where a lot of questions are asked and answered. So go and have a look at that, and I hope you enjoyed this review and look forward to seeing you next time.